Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 12th of November. All right, as we come through into the Asian session, now we've had a few hours of trading, and the currencies pretty much opened up where they were or where they closed on Friday. Now that's a good thing. It means there's no sort of crazy geopolitical events to really go and search and try and find out what's going on. But what we did have is we had the US PPI numbers out on Friday. Now this followed the sort of the Fed on was it late Wednesday, early Thursday in Asia. So we've got a nice, with those US PPI numbers coming in above forecast, it was a pretty sort of straight down move on Euro. Now Euro's got that sort of general negative European sentiment, and now a strong US dollar sentiment once again. It is really going to be driving that pair lower. Now, Sterling, has been dribbling off with the strong US dollar sort of sentiment at the moment, but also then we had over the course of as you do over the course of Friday and the weekend, another British minister has resigned, saying that the Brexit plans are delusional and calling for a referendum. That's put massive downward pressure on sterling and sees it lower. So to me, it's still, I've been saying it every day, like, you know, every time it sort of rallies, you expect the negative news to come out. And just the same way, I expect something positive to happen and this thing to continue to trade in a 300 or 400 point range. Now, Aussie and Kiwi, right? So these are technically on the daily and weekly charts have broken higher. You can see how what happens is it just sort of rallied on a bit of weak US dollar sentiment, bit of risk on appetite with the equity markets, and then the yuan appreciating. Now, the yuan has sort of rolled over again, and the US dollar is rallying against the Chinese yuan or the offshore yuan. Now, that's starting to see the technicals, just especially on the hourlies, start to break down. That's those stronger US PPI numbers, okay, battling against sort of stronger upward bias on the technicals in the Aussie and Kiwi. And so that's why you got a bit more of a sideways trading movement than sort of straight down like Euro and Sterling, which have exterior events impacting those pairs. Dollar yen, as you can see, well, likes the dollar sentiment. To me, it is moving higher, but this is like watching paint dry. It's now sort of back into a sort of sideways movement. But overall, on the longer term charts, dollar yen is moving higher. Dollar Swiss, like the US numbers Friday, or even the move. This is just the complete opposite of Euro, and it should be. But one thing to note is dollar Swiss doesn't really want to go on with it, where Euro looks like it's ready to keep sliding lower. I'm a bit surprised that dollar Swiss isn't higher. Maybe it gives you a bit of an idea of the overall dollar picture. It's had its move. We're now waiting for the next fundamental driver. Now, dollar CAD, now I've just gone through the technical side of things. On the hourly, sort of daily and weeklies, this thing is breaking higher. Okay, so we've now got some situation where we've got a strong dollar across the board, but with the CAD, it's always a bit of a battle. Like the Canadian fundamentals are usually pretty close to the US. They aren't too far off, but what we are seeing is a major move in oil. Then there's also talk of some delay in a new gas pipeline, oil pipeline from Canada to the US, and that's sort of going to maybe restrict a little bit of supply or some supply issues, supply and demand. But it's actually what that really is impacting the Canadians, right? They're a massive oil-producing country out of the developed world, and that delay is sort of putting a bit of negative sentiment on the CAD, right? It's one of their biggest exports. So then you look at the US dollar index, right, to get a bit of a picture, and of course it's moving to the top side. If we get above 97, well then, you know, it's blue skies, and we could start to see this thing run to the top side, which would be really good to get some more continuous strong US numbers. That's what we need. Now, just having a bit of a snapshot look at the general news out there at the moment. Strong US economy, weaker stocks boost dollar. Now, the equity markets, I mean, to me, this is where Reuters and Bloomberg can get a little bit sideways. Equity markets were off, and I'll show you that in a second. Only a fraction, like 0.7% for the Dow Jones. The NASDAQ, a little bit worse at 1.6%, but it's not massive. It's not like a massive sell-off in equities where you see a rush to the dollar. But I think the dollar is just moving higher, primarily from the hawkish sentiment, the confirmation of sentiment from the Fed, and then a follow-up in US numbers, which have been strong. The PPI, 2.9% versus the 2.5 forecast. Brexit, well, there you have it. There's some more rubbish there. You've got a bit of a story here about dollar CAD, moving down after the price of oil's fallen, and then the rest of it is a bit of a mess. Yen weakness as dollar firm. So the one thing that we were looking for with China, we're looking for more of a US strength move than a tariff move, right? So we haven't heard anything about the tariffs from Trump for a bit. I'm sure we'll probably hear something in no time at all. But at the moment, dollar yuan, the offshore yuan, is starting to move higher. It's now at almost at 6.95, not far from 6.98 where it hit a week or so ago. And that's when the People's Bank of China intervened, pushing it down about 13 cents. As I said back then, any sort of, let me just come over here and show you these charts. Any sort of intervention, right, especially when it's by itself, you need an economic event or something to go with it, because what can happen is you end up with a currency which goes down. Yeah, this is all artificial, this move. Let me just get a bit of a thicker pen. And then what can happen is if there's nothing to follow through with it, nothing substantial, okay, you just get the move straight back up. And it's been a little bit slower to get going. The market's been a little bit, I think the speculators have been hammered a bit, but this is exactly where it's going. And that's going to be what the People's Bank of China will find, like the Bank of Japan did 20 years ago. Intervening just for the hell of it to push the currency down does not work. Okay, you need fiscal and monetary policy working in unison. Raw intervention like that is that's old school and just doesn't work. Here's the dollar index, as you can see, starting to move higher. We just want to get above this high. It could really have a crack to the top side. Equity markets, as I was saying, I think we're going to get a sea of red on the equity markets across Asia and Europe at this stage. But don't forget, it is a US and Canadian holiday on Monday with Remembrance Day and Veterans Day, the main features there. So when you come back to, if I just bring it back to the news here for a second, one of the key things is identifying what's going through the market, right? And this is where you come back into the MyFX Trading Hub and you can sort of piece together, we haven't had any real change from Friday. So one thing is, though, that the markets, there's less geopolitical events around at the moment. Obviously, the key one that's impacting sterling and sterling crosses, and sort of secondarily the US dollar, are the random Brexit updates. But trading conditions outside of that are pretty good, right? We've got clear US dollar sentiment, and that's giving us good trading opportunities and makes it easy to pick off the majors. Now, out of the major currency pairs, and I'm just looking at the overall outlook here. Okay, so we get Brexit for sterling. It is going down. Sterling is going down at the moment, of course. But I want you to understand that Brexit is the driver. Not the fundamentals in the UK are quite strong, as they are in the US. So really, it should be trading sideways. To me, Euro, as I mentioned on Friday, to me the clearest trading opportunity. What we have here is on the bottom line, the US dollar pairs, dollar yen, dollar Swiss, dollar CAD, and then you've got the basket itself, the dollar index. Now, these are all in a bullish mode. Now, dollar yen and dollar Swiss are moving higher, but they aren't exactly setting the house on fire, right? So they have got a bullish sentiment, but it's pretty fresh. Whereas dollar CAD, right, it is just breaking through daily and weekly levels at the moment, and on the hourlies it's up as well. So that's sort of, to me, a little bit fresher, where dollar Swiss and dollar yen are just struggling to keep going up. So they're starting to trade sideways, but the overall sentiment from the US dollar is bullish. So you've got to be thinking they're going to be moving higher. Now, the Aussie and Kiwi, a little bit of a different one here. Okay, so these pairs technically are still sort of moving up, but that technical picture, upward technical picture, is now going to start fighting those US fundamentals. And what will happen is, if there is no Aussie or Kiwi data to go with that upward move in their technicals, they will roll over and the US fundamentals will dominate. So just keep an eye on these two pairs. I think there could be an opportunity, unless we see something strong out of Australia and New Zealand, for these two pairs to start to catch up, and we could see them slide into the downside with the euro as we go through the week. Now, this is where you really bring back in the data, and this is where you connect the dots. You're like, okay, so we've got a couple of pairs here with clear sentiment. Where are the major opportunities coming up? Well, it's not, we don't have anything Monday. As I said, it's a US and Canadian holiday. When it's a major US holiday, the whole market takes the day off, Monday off. So you'll find out the Asian market very quiet, and even the European market. And then coming into Tuesday, we've got UK employment numbers, average weekly earnings, and the unemployment rate. A pretty big release. Unfortunately, once again, we've got Brexit simmering away. So you've got to sort of try and factor in the fundamentals, the economics with the geopolitical situation. It's a bit of a mess, right? So we just got to see how that plays out. Now, with Euro going lower, I'm really bringing into play the German numbers, right? So we get on Tuesday, we get some weak ZEW, ZOO economic sentiment numbers out of Germany. Euro's already sliding lower because of a weak Euro sentiment, strong US dollar sentiment. We get weak numbers here, fits perfectly into the plan, and we can see a really nice trade there on Euro come Tuesday. And then you start to come in and get some, we start to get a look at some Chinese numbers there on Wednesday as well. Now, this is going to be important. Surely the tariffs are going to start impacting. We may be 1 month too early, but it will be interesting to see how this plays out. And the offshore dollar one, probably the best trading opportunity as the correlation with the Aussie Kiwi has broken down somewhat. Then coming to Wednesday's trading, right, and this is where it's going to get, this is really the business end of the week, where it really kicks off. We've got UK CPI, once again, Brexit, a bit of a nuisance, but we do also have US CPI. Now, this is what I'm talking about. If we get a connection here, we've had the Fed coming out saying they're on track. We've had US PPI numbers, stronger, much stronger than the forecast. If we get stronger numbers here on the US dollar, it's going to be a really good trading opportunity across all major pairs. The US dollar sentiment is already firm. This will even firm it up even further. So to me, that's a really great opportunity. And if you're looking for real dreamboat stuff, you get weak Aussie data after that. Then the Aussie's down 150 points, as would the US dollar be rallying across the board. And then you come back down here to Thursday, US retail sales, sterling retail sales and employment numbers out of Australia. It's all looking like this is a really beefy week, right? Canadian manufacturing sales to finish it off. So we've got lots of good trading opportunities. There's no need to jump in here on Monday and, get yourself all bent out of shape. Like say Mondays, yeah, you can tuck away a little bit of cash, especially on the pairs that have clear sentiment. Like to me, like on a Monday, I'm still looking to sell back towards Euro, back towards 136. Sterling, I'm leaving out of the picture. Aussie, well, you know what? This thing is starting to get the wobbly boot. And as I said, US fundamentals are dominating. And there's no technical levels here till down around sort of 71.70, right? This thing could float around all over the place. I'm starting to get a bit bearish and potentially looking to sell up around 72.80. Don't forget, we've got to wait. We've got a lot of US or some good US numbers to come out before we hit the Aussie numbers. So if that lines up, Aussie could be in for a move downside, as is the Kiwi. It's just it's a little bit firmer than the Aussie on fundamental aspects. Now, dollar yen, well, it's trading sideways, but overall, you cannot deny on the daily charts, it is still slowly moving higher. It is like watching paint dry, but that's the sentiment at the moment. Dollar Swiss, keep an eye on this. This should be higher, but it's not. And you've got to try and work out why. I mean, the dollar is waiting for more data, but we will get that through the week. And dollar CAD, as I mentioned, it has broken on a number of different time frames. Above 132, if it holds above there, we could see a quick run to 133.5, no problem at all, especially if the dollar index breaks above sort of 97.10. All right, and that's where it's heading at this stage. So no change in sentiment Monday from Friday. I think the dollar in the driving seat. Once again, this is where you can really, you do your homework, and that's what the MyFX Trading Hub page is for, is to really sort of space that out for you. And once again, just focus on these pairs that have clear sentiment, and then you can work out where, and especially as I said, you're looking at this, say, Aussie and Kiwi, these are potential trades coming up in a couple of days, right? Where the Euro is sort of right now, probably dollar CAD. The other ones, they are moving higher, but very slow at this point. All right, guys, that's it from me. I think we've got a very exciting week. One key thing you'll notice from the upcoming data this week, there's very little in the way of central bank information. This is just really key data, right? And that's much better. Get the central banks out of the way. They give us an idea of where the currencies are going, which is what the Fed has done. And then we get the main course here, which is all the high impacting numbers, the CPI numbers out of the UK, US, retail sales, employment numbers in Australia. This is going to be really exciting and a huge, huge potential. All right, guys, that's it from me. Have a good trade week. We'll catch you in the live trade zone. Cheerio.